Patrick Bet David. The answer to the question, what would happen if you took your average door-to-door door salesman, dressed him sharper than Albert Einstein riding a pufferfish through a needle factory, and gave him the kind of platform where people could pump out their political propaganda about how the FBI killed JFK and how Hitler built the pyramids? Some know him as the host of YouTube channel Valuetainment, others know him as the CEO of a multi-level marketing scheme, and some of his more loyal fans might recognise him as an Armenian-Assyrian immigrant that came over here and took the job of being a professional full-time fucking idiot that they were otherwise an absolute shoo-in for. Today, we're going to take a look at the life and times of Patrick Bet David, how he made his millions, and understand whether he's just an honest guy trying to make a buck by providing value to the world, or if he's just a sly little grifter that's made his millions bleeding money out of struggling minorities. It's the second one. Let's get into it. Patrick was born in Iran in 1978, just before the First Gulf War. This prompted his parents to seek asylum, eventually ending up in a refugee camp in Germany in 1989. After about a year and a half, they got their green card and moved to California. Against all odds, he survives the greatest country in the world's schooling system and decides to use that combat training to enroll in the military.
Full scales, all the ammo, all the bomb.
He serves in the 101st Airborne Regiment, and after about 2 or 3 years, he leaves to pursue the thing he loves the most: money.
I got money.
And that's not me being a cunt either. He details his progression from the military in this interview with Vlad TV. Long story short, and it was a long fucking story, he gets out the military, enrolls in Santa Monica Community College, and drops out after 1 year. He meets a 24-year-old girl, starts dating her, and she's driving around in a nice car and shit, so he asks her what she did to make that kind of money. She tells him that she works as a broker for Morgan Stanley. He then starts working for Morgan Stanley. He leaves after 1 year and starts working at an insurance company called Transamerica, basically just selling insurance to people. He works there for 7 years, then leaves and starts his own company, PHP Agency.
The champ is here!
Okay, so Patrick creates a company called People Helping Patrick Agency. Sorry, People Helping People Agency. Now, PHP Agency is what we in the biz call a multi-level marketing, or MLM, scheme. And to understand what an MLM does, I first need to explain what a pyramid scheme is.
Can you look at that?
It's a pyramid scheme.
It's not a pyramid scheme, it's a reverse funnel system.
Turn it upside down.
God damn it! Shit!
So, a pyramid scheme is an investment scam. You've got your guy at the top. For the sake of argument, let's call him Hattrick. Hattrick has a brilliant opportunity for you to make lots and lots of money, and it's only going to cost you £100 a month. All you've got to do is recruit more people into the business. For every person you get to sign up, I'll let you keep £50 of their monthly sign-up fee. So Hattrick, our handsome and charismatic and possibly Iranian scam lord, signs up 2 people. Those 2 people then go out and recruit 2 people as well. This thing's really starting to build up some steam, but those of you over the age of 10 might have noticed a bit of an issue. Let's do a bit of adding up and just see where the grand totals lie so far. The new recruits have lost money. They're down £100 each. The guys that recruited them are just about to break even at fuck all, but our suave, suit-wearing, possibly ex-military Hattrick is up £400. Now this is exactly why these schemes are illegal. It relies on a willful misrepresentation of the risks involved, the business model is highly deceptive, and it will inevitably lead to the vast majority involved losing money. It's essentially a marketing exploit. It's all style, no substance. All fart, no poo. There's no tangible benefit, no innovation. It's an entirely insular business. It's what we would call a zero-sum game. The only way the parasites at the top make money is if the people at the bottom lose money. So with that in mind, we must now ask the question, what is an MLM? An MLM, or a multi-level marketing scheme, is essentially a pyramid scheme that also sells a product. That's it. So let's imagine, you've got a CEO of an MLM, let's just call him Cattrick. Cattrick's got some experience in, I don't know, let's pluck something out of thin air, selling insurance at Transamerica for 7 years. Great. So, Cattrick recruits 2 people. He says, I want you to sell product A, in this case, an insurance plan. All you got to do is pay me a one-off sum of $200 to cover the software and training that you'll need. Then you're ready to do two things. One, you get to sell insurance to people. And two, you can also start to recruit people below you to do the same thing. I'll let you keep 10% of all of your product sales and 30% of the training fees for new recruits. Now, if you're sat there looking gorgeous, thinking, but geez, that really is just a pyramid scheme with a fake fucking mustache, isn't it? Yes. Yes, it is. Which leads us nicely back to PHP Agency. PHP is a company that hires independent contractors, otherwise known as entrepreneurs, forward-thinking business owners, or victims of pyramid schemes depending on your disposition. They contract you to sell insurance, and also make a very healthy profit by recruiting other people into becoming contractors as well. In fact, despite Patrick advertising the business as an insurance company, the vast majority of money generated for the company comes from recruitment fees rather than from insurance sales. That's red flag number one. Red flag number two is the marketing. Before we look at a few examples, I want to invite you to just challenge our expectations a bit. If a company's honestly just selling a product, and the majority of their income comes from the sales of that product, and the product is what they are passionate about, what would you expect their marketing campaigns to look like? Well, they would focus on the product, right? They'd be screaming at the top of their lungs about the product and the unique selling points and where you can buy it and how affordable and life-changing it is, right? Now, let's suppose your business isn't in selling a product, but in recruiting people to your company. What would you expect their marketing campaigns to look like? Maybe they're talking about how amazing it is to be an insurance salesman. Maybe they're showing off their fancy suits, fancy cars, smoking cigars, sort of like a Dan Bilzerian fever dream. Maybe they're focused more on their culture, their work ethic, pulling yourself up by the brogue straps and being inspirational. Let's take a look. I'm sure we're all going to be proven wrong.
It's not easy to ignore the financial problems we have today. Crippling student loan debt, not enough income, living worse than paycheck to paycheck, and GoFundMe pages for life's emergencies. Worse is having nothing much to financially show for. In retirement, not a chance. Everyone talks about it, yet very few bring financial solutions to solve it. Until now.
The champ is here! The champ is here! The champ is here! The champ is here! The champ is here!
One company dares to dream bigger and do the impossible. One company pushes the limits of the status quo. One company stands above the rest and redefining an entire industry. We are PHP Agency.
The care with which PHP treats every single consumer. PHP is different in the sense that you know that the people working at the company, from the CEO to individual agents, truly care about their customers.
With the top compensation package in the marketplace for entrepreneurial agency builders, PHP is ushering a new era of multicultural and diverse agents. There's a reason why the rich get richer and the poor get poorer.
You're absolutely right. There is a reason why the rich get richer. It's because these rich cunts are selling you the dream of getting rich. And it is definitely theoretically possible, in the same way that me making a video without calling somebody a complete cunt is theoretically possible, but it's just not going to happen, is it? And it's about now that I realise just how fucking culty and insular these sort of fart-huffing gimps are as well. All the language they use is carefully chosen to manipulate your perception of what is happening around and to you. Every conversation is a pitch, carefully rehearsed to sound as natural and engaging and charming as possible. They don't have a job for you, they've got an exciting business opportunity. They aren't independent contractors because God fucking knows Pat doesn't give a microcosm of a fuck about your pension and dental plan. You're a business owner now. These aren't your competitors, we're all family here, Chief. And look, it might not be the most amazing company to work for in terms of your work-life balance or your mental health or for income stability, but there's no cap on what you can earn. Who needs income stability when the choice is between $50,000 or $500,000 a month? Either way, I know I'm going to be earning way more than most of these 9-to-5 bozos anyway, right? I will be earning more than those bozos. Right, Patrick? Yeah, totally. I mean, like, 8% of our licensed agents make more than minimum wage, so you could definitely become one of those 8% of contractors. You just pay your fee, take out a plan, study for and pay for your insurance sales license, relentlessly manipulate your friends and loved ones, work 7 days a week, be available and on call for your upline no matter what the hour, and you could well make an amount of money. Those numbers aren't made up, by the way. 92% of PHP agents make less than $25,000 a year. And that's not even including expenses like paying to attend PHP's knockoff Comic-Con, a sort of Comic-Con con, if you will. Or what about paying for transportation to go and meet all these clients you're trying to scam? I mean, provide business opportunities too. And you know all those high-flying earners you saw in those marketing clips? The guys that were making over $500,000 a year, according to Patty Cake? That's the top 0.17% of earners in the company. And guys, hey, little secret between you and me, those spots have already been filled. You're about as likely to end up in the top 0.2% of earners as you are to end up on the board of directors at Amazon while you're a driver for Uber Eats, you know? And guess what? That's still not even the worst part. The worst part is that these are the numbers of licensed agents that work with PHP. That's right, because if you deal in life insurance, you also need to be licensed. So, picture the scene. Some 19-year-old Gordon Gekko-looking cunt comes up to you, tells you he's got a great business opportunity. He tells you you've not known it until now, but deep down you've always wanted to be a commission-only insurance salesman. He tells you to put $200 down on a training plan, then buy a life insurance plan through his affiliate link too, because, let's be real, how can you expect to sell something if you haven't used it yourself? By that logic, I'll never look at my 18-inch strap-on salesman the same ever again. Then, once you've paid me my money, you need to go and get your license, which includes completing coursework unpaid, then passing an exam, which you have to pay between $40 and $150 for the pleasure of completing. Then you need to wait a minimum of 2 days after you get your test results, then you need to apply for your license, then you need to pay a licensing fee for each of the insurance specializations that you've chosen. Then you've got to wait for your application to be processed, and providing all that goes swimmingly, you're back at square fucking one. Except you're sort of not, you know? You spend anywhere between 2 and 8 weeks going through this whole process, and you're at least a few $100s up shit creek, but hey, look on the bright side. You now get to work as a salesman for a company that doesn't want to give you basic employment rights, of which 92% make less than they would per hour than if they just rocked up at their local fucking dockyard with a bottle of lube and a can-do attitude. But unlike PHP, at least they've got the courtesy to tell you they're about to fuck you. If you want to know more about how these slimy cunts draw you in and what to look out for, the channel Family First Life Lawsuits have recorded an onboarding call that could be very helpful for you, which he outlines the egregiously low commission rates amongst other things. In summary,
It's basically a house of cards where the dickheads at the bottom do all the work and give all the money to the smart guys up at the top. All right, now we get...
So whenever you see Patrick on a podcast talking about how businesses and entrepreneurs need to be innovative and push the standards, he made his millions by scamming poor people. So it's 2012. Concurrent to him making millions by scamming poor Hispanic women, Patrick launches a YouTube channel called Valuetainment. He starts off uploading content from his very clean and fancy home, doing the whole Tony Robbins, Gary Vee, Luke Rockhold, conceive, believe, achieve bollocks. I especially liked most important lesson learned, awesome video. That one's a real game changer. Here's another gem. Capitalism, socialism, or communism. This looks interesting. Let's tune in and listen to this multi-millionaire's thoughts on capitalism, socialism, and communism, and which is objectively best for humanity.
So let's look at the three forms of economy in a way of Olympics. If this was the Olympics, how do the three forms of economy look for Olympics? Let's take a look at this here together. So we have capitalism, we have socialism, we have communism, right? Excuse my handwriting, but we have capitalism, socialism, communism. I've lived in a couple of these, but what does this have to do with Olympics? Well, let's take a look at this. If capitalism was to be the Olympics, this is what it would look like. You have the first place, second place, third place. If the philosophy of socialism was to be used in Olympics, it would look something like this. There would only be a first, and a second, and everything pretty much drops. But third goes up a little bit. And if there was communism, it would kind of just look like this. Everybody's at the same place, right?
Okay, so he's not exactly a political savant, but he's a business guy. We really shouldn't be too worried about the intellectual abortion we just witnessed, so long as he doesn't step into the world of, say, political commentary.
Sometimes foreshadowing is relatively obvious.
Now, that was basically his gig for a few years. He would leverage his MLM scheme to establish a profile online as a business guru and entrepreneur with a bit of lifestyle stuff mixed in for good measure. And when I say he leveraged his MLM scheme, I mean that he would recycle content between the two platforms to maximize his return on the very healthy fees he paid to those speakers and interviewees. His Kobe Bryant interview, for example, was for a PHP event that he uploaded to Valuetainment. Same thing with his Norman E. Titeson interview and his Steve Wozniak interview too. To be clear, there's nothing wrong with re-uploading content you own the rights to on multiple platforms, but it served throughout the years to legitimize his platform as an interviewer and a content creator, despite the recording happening under different contexts. It makes the viewer assume that he is being legitimized by the guests in the context of his current channel, rather than simply being paid an exorbitant amount of money to appear as a speaker at a corporate event. Anyway, over the years, the Valuetainment brand was built as his Gary Vee, Tai Lopez, Tony Robbins style business and entrepreneurship channel. This channel is Pat's biggest platform, and he uses it to post 3 main types of content. 1 is interviews. 2 is his business mentorship stuff, the 20 rules of money, 7 signs you're going to be successful, 11 skills that millionaires master, you know how it goes. The final thing leads me on to our next topic, because he also posts clips from his political podcast, the PBD podcast. So what do you chase when you've got money? When you've made enough to not have to work another day in your life, what do you do?
So you can go politics. So currency is in different ways, right? When we think about currency, we don't just think about, first thing that comes on currency, the dollar, the euro, the this. No, that's one currency, which is money, right? The other currency is what? Political power, control. The other currency is what? Fame, attention. There's many different currencies that we're dealing with, okay?
Also, bit of an aside, Pat outlined this in a conversation about the fact that this is what the enemy does. Absolute gold. And so, with his bags of cash in hand, Patrick set out to do 2 things. Increase his political influence, and increase his fame. Once he's united all 3 Infinity Stones, only then can he rise above the fray and become the pyramid scheme overlord. He sets up a podcast studio in an old bank vault, which is obviously cool as fuck, and that's about as good as it gets on that front. Now, I obviously don't have the time or the willpower to go through and dissect every single episode of his podcast, but I have taken the liberty of just plucking some of the obvious complete bollocks out, just to highlight how much of a completely brain-dead pigeon fucker this man is. Best grab a cuppa, cause fuck me, this might take a sec. Okay, assertion number 1. Patrick Bet-David is intentionally misrepresenting taxation to his viewers to keep them voting against their interests. Hear me out. In his interview with Sam Seder 2 years ago, in relation to a broader point around the distribution of wealth in the US, Sam says,
I would also change our tax policy. So, I would claw some of that back, quite a bit of it back.
Patrick asks Sam,
What would you do?
And Sam responds by saying,
I would return to the tax policy when we had the greatest, sort of the widest economic expansion shared by more people as a percentage of our population than any other time in this country, which was in the 50s and the 60s. And I would return to the tax rates more or less there. So your top tax rate at that time was 90%, top marginal rate, for every dollar over $470,000 you would earn. So that would be equivalent to around $3 million today.
Okay, great. Sam wants to increase the top marginal tax rate to around 90% for every dollar you earn above $4 million. He explains his reasoning that this would basically mirror the tax structure that we had when America had the most fair and equitable distribution of wealth in its history. Pat's first argument was, naturally, to tell a 100% made-up story that definitely didn't happen.
There was this girl who was a top realtor in the San Fernando Valley area, one of the top realtors. Her picture was on all the benches. Everywhere you would go, you would see her. And she was one of the realtors making very good money. She's making $500,000 a year income, doing good for herself, whatever the number was, $400,000, $500,000. One day, I stopped seeing her pictures on the seats. And I'm at Wood Ranch with my wife, and I said, hey, you're the girl, right? She says, yeah, I am. She's with her husband and her 2 kids. I said, what happened? We haven't seen you lately. She says, it's so funny you ask. My husband and I made a decision that the moment taxes got so high, it was more important for me to be stay home. It wasn't worth me working to pay this much in taxes.
Sam finds a fairly easy rebuttal to this.
I bet you, I guarantee you, there was no less houses that sold because that one particular broker stopped selling houses at a certain point.
And of course, he's absolutely right. There is no shortage of people willing to sell houses because one agent decided that only having 10 grand a month was shit, so I'd rather just have nothing at all. It's a position of privilege to be able to go without that kind of money, and you can guarantee that work will happily be picked up by somebody else. Once that argument falls apart, Patrick, a professional businessman with a net worth somewhere in the hundreds of millions of dollars, decided to willfully lie to his audience by conflating revenue with profits.
Let me ask you this question. If YouTube took their AdSense from 55 to 15, would you continue creating content?
Yeah.
You sure?
Sure.
You'd continue creating content?
I wasn't doing YouTube for a long time.
How do you make a living today?
I have membership. That people pay. I get ad revenue from different places.
Okay, so let's just say the membership that you get from Patreon or whoever it is, okay? What if their fees went from them keeping 5% to 60% to 90%? Would you continue creating content?
I mean, I would probably have to cut back if there was that.
Exactly.
Well, but that's only because it's such a big change.
No, because that's the part about incentive, Sam. So your audience gets to enjoy you.
I'm not saying we'll cut the revenue for these businesses. I'm saying that the amount of
you
money...
have no choice, though, because you're paying these guys. You need the revenue.
No. I'm not suggesting we cut revenue for businesses. What I am suggesting is after that revenue comes in... and we divvy up and I have my net profits, then my taxes would go up.
So let me explain. Revenue, also known as gross profit, is the total amount of money that you generate without anything else being taken into account. Then you deduct your expenses, like stock if you buy and sell things, or electricity to keep your lights on, or staff wages, the stuff you need to spend money on to actually keep your business running. The money you have left over is your net profit. That's how much money you get to stick in your pocket and spend on treats like not having to watch Patrick Bet fucking David for 3 entire fucking weeks of your life. Businesses get taxed on their net profit, not on their gross profit. So when Patrick conflates the two, he's either being a complete shit-for-brains fucking arsehole dickhead loser, or he's being a sneaky, slimy bastard man who's fanning outrage to scare his viewers into thinking that Sam is a communist. Make no mistake, when Sam says that the 50s and the 60s were the most economically prosperous times in the US, you might be thinking, well, great. Why would Patrick be against economic prosperity? Great question. The answer is that he's not against economic prosperity for himself. The best time to be working class really was in the 50s and 60s, at least economically speaking. But make no mistake, the best time to be a multi-millionaire top 1%er is right fucking now.
I know I've let you down.
Okay, this section basically just speaks for itself. Let's just jump straight into a few examples. When Sam says Medicare is one of the most popular programs the US government offers.
The whatever you want to call it, consumer satisfaction, I don't like to think of citizens as consumers, but the satisfaction's huge, through the roof, particularly when people use it. It's people appreciate it who don't use it. If I got my parents, they're on Medicare, I'm pretty psyched about it because I don't have to take care of them. My mother's in a nursing home now. It's Medicaid that's doing that. I'm not responsible for that cost. Social Security through the roof. In fact, I think even Republicans, I think even a majority of Republicans want to expand Social Security.
Patrick replies by saying,
popular is not a way to qualify something. If I
Well,
went
I
out
mean,
there and
it's
I
customer
gave,
satisfaction.
if I went to high school and I said, guys, I'm giving dime bags to everybody weed, I'd be a very popular kind of high school. So
Well-
that is a wrong way to qualify.
okay, great. Popularity isn't necessarily an indication of whether or not something's good. But when Sam says Borden-Tiedemann isn't a net good for young people, all of a sudden being popular is an obvious indicator that something's fucking brilliant and definitely not a hack piece of shit.
What are your thoughts on Jordan Peterson?
I think Jordan Peterson's a lunatic, and I think his perspective on women is just twisted. He might be good for helping wayward kids who don't know how to make their bed, but I think that a lot of his ideas are really incredibly toxic and bizarre, frankly.
The endless amount of stories of how that guy positively impacted people's lives is the numbers. Unbelievable how big it is on what he's done.
Where do you I've heard you say, I think, or someone told me that you're a data guy. Where is is that just anecdotes or?
Have you ever filled up an arena with 15,000 people?
Good job, little buddy.
Polls. During his interview with David Pakman, he berates David for wanting to inform his arguments using poll data.
The Gallup polling that has been done.
So you trust polls?
Oh, come on.
But that's where we're going, though. Somebody may say there's a lot of people that showed up for Obama just because he was black.
Sure, they can say that. I don't know. I mean, I don't know.
But
Is that true?
You don't think it's true?
Of course, in a country of 330 million people, there are going to be some.
No, but you said you don't know if it's true. It's like, what do you mean you don't know if it's true? I don't have any. You don't have any data? You want to get data to say people showed up just because they're black?
There's exit polling on most of these issues.
No,
I'm not saying
that's what you were saying. I want to
really
see a poll on that. Do you have a poll on that?
Not offhand.
Then how could you say, why, do you have a poll? Give me a poll.
Okay, so Patrick isn't a poll guy. Maybe he thinks that people lie too much, or maybe there's a selection bias, or whatever it is. Okay. But when he wants to criticize the Democrats, he's more than happy to cite polls to inform his argument.
And then you get these CNN polls. Rob, if you can pull up the CNN video showing where the Democratic Party is at today, play this clip, and I want to ask you, Sam, what happened to the Democratic Party? Go for it.
Good one, Eddie.
3. Patrick doesn't like the Democrats' position on migration because he thinks it's a political tool to get people to vote for Democrats. The reasoning, according to Pat, is that if they are the ones that let them in, they are going to vote for them. And even if I don't agree with his specific point here, I respect the fact that he's at least against delegitimizing elections. But what about when Elon Musk is bribing voters in Wisconsin? What about when Elon Musk's PAC edits an ad that they put out because it breaks election bribery laws?
My name's Ekaterina Diesler. I'm from Green Bay, Wisconsin. I did exactly what Elon Musk told everyone to do. Sign a petition, refer friends and family, vote, and now I have $1 million. My name's Ekaterina Diesler. I'm from Green Bay, Wisconsin. I did exactly what Elon Musk told everyone to do. Sign a petition, refer friends and family, and now I have $1 million.
Well, Pat hasn't so much as pulled Elon's cock out of his mouth to condemn him as a weird incel with a god complex. He hasn't said he thinks Elon looks like somebody microwaved a Kevin Durant action figure. He hasn't said that he thinks that he looks like he was moulded together using offcuts of John Barrowman's discarded foreskin. He hasn't said a fucking word about it, because Elon Musk is on his side. And you don't go criticizing your own side, do you?
Donald Trump.
Patrick makes the claim that Trump was a brilliant negotiator for peace on the international stage and says,
What happened with Palestine and Israel?
What happened?
What happened? They came together after 20-some years.
What?
What are you talking about when you say
what? What are you talking about?
Okay, to be clear, in case you guys haven't noticed, Israel and Palestine haven't exactly come together. It's actually a testament to how thick this dude is that the closest Israelis and Palestinians have come to agreeing is when they both agree that he's a colossal fucking idiot. He's taken to his podcast a couple of times to say that he believes America needs to be feared and respected.
We need fear. We need respect. We don't have fear today. We don't have respect today.
Zero.
When there's no fear, when there's no respect, Russia's going to do whatever they're doing to Ukraine. You got Hamas is going to do whatever they're going to do to Israel. So if we had a stronger president that could impose fear on all of them collectively, maybe they would tone it down a little bit. But unfortunately, there's not a strong leader in charge.
He says that Trump is the guy that's going to force Russia, Israel, and Hamas to pump the brakes and listen to what he has to say. So where are we now? Well, Trump has waged a trade war on almost every country on Earth, applying immediate import taxes to every allied country, including territories with no human population, but curiously seems to have forgotten to tariff Russia. He withdrew all aid to Ukraine until they, the country being invaded by Russia, brokered peace with Russia. He stood alongside Benjamin Netanyahu as he killed Palestinian civilians in retaliation to Hamas committing the unforgivable crime of, let me just check my notes here, killing Israeli civilians. He has since published AI videos of his utopian vision of he and Elon Musk razing Gaza to the ground to make way for a beach resort. He's threatened to annex Greenland, he's threatened to invade Canada, and he's threatened to establish a military presence in Mexico. And perhaps most egregious of all, he's threatened to visit the UK. Saying that Donald Trump is feared and respected amongst the leaders of the world is akin to saying that a cocaine-fueled 7-year-old with a rocket launcher is feared and respected. It says a lot about the disposition of this money-obsessed fucking goblin that he thinks the more erratic, aggressive, and abusive you are, the more qualified you are to manage America's international reputation. Let me just say that this section ended right here, until I saw that Patrick uploaded a video where he reviewed Trump's first 100 days in office. He thinks the tariffs are still great, he thinks annexing Greenland for their minerals is essential, and loves the idea of taking the Panama Canal.
Effort, I don't know if any presidents worked harder in their first 100 days. Matter of fact, President Biden signed 162 executive orders in 4 years of being president. President Trump signed 142 executive orders in his first 100 days. 142. And FDR had the record before at 99. This was during the Great Depression. He signed 142. This man is working like no other president has ever worked in the first 100 days. So I give him an A for effort.
I can't believe I have to explain this to an adult, but judging a president by how many executive orders they signed is sort of like judging how good a marksman someone is by how many bullets they shoot. It doesn't really take into account any sort of nuance, it's just, this number is bigger than that number, he wins. Patrick is ignoring the fact that, despite Republicans controlling the White House, the House of Representatives, and the Senate, he has only managed to pass 5 bills into law. Everything else has been done by executive order. That's the least amount of laws for any president in the last 70 years. And while we're on the subject of being the hardest working president Pat's ever seen,
Donald Trump has played golf 24 out of his first 99 days.
That's right, 24 of the first 100 days in office were spent golfing. It's estimated that, based on the Government Accountability Office filings from his previous presidency, that each Mar-a-Lago trip costed around $3.4 million in 2017. And he actually makes money from it, because part of that money is paying for accommodation at his own resort. Now, I know what you're thinking, but unfortunately our centrist billionaire Elon fucking Musk hasn't noticed this particular piece of waste, fraud, and abuse yet.
I owe my soul to the company store.
Okay, Patrick's spoken about the 4-day work week a few times now, including publishing a video called The Case Against a 4-Day Work Week, which we will cover off in just a second. First, let's just take a listen to what he and his gaggle of retards think about the 4-day work week.
And I'm going to try to give an NBA analogy to your NFL
go. Here we
analogy.
go.
Here it is.
The sports audience.
Like if I get 7
playoff
fouls? Yeah. No, I think, well, to use the top 1%, the next 20, and then basically the bottom, you know, in the NBA, there's 20 guys that make $40 million a year. You got LeBron, you got KD, you got Steph, you got Giannis. These are the all-stars, okay? And then you've got the average NBA guy that makes, I don't know, $5-10 million a year. Not bad for a day's work.
Mid-level exemption.
Exactly. And then you got what is known as the veterans minimum. Keyword minimum. And then you got guys like Udonis Haslem that literally don't play a minute.
Okay, what's this guy's name? Adam? Okay, Adam, buddy. That's an argument for the minimum wage, not an argument against a 4-day work week, you fucking idiot. You're talking about the top 20%, which you define as successful, but there's a limit to how many people that can be in the top 20%. It's great on an individual level to say, hey kid, you should work hard and try to be in the top 20%. But what about the 80% of NBA players that just aren't in there?
Yeah. Well, listen, motherfucker, you ain't LeBron.
Yeah. Oh, right, okay. So your argument is just be LeBron James. Can't be that hard, surely. Congratulations, you're officially an absolute brain-dead fucking virgin. On to the next guy.
So, everybody understands football. What if I told you, hey, you know what? You can play football against me, and I'll tell you what. I get 4 downs, you get 5 downs. That's 25%. That's an extra. Would you play that game? Yeah. Because even if I'm better than you as a team,
what an analogy.
You get another chance.
What an analogy.
And you keep coming. You would say, sure, I'll play that game. All day long, I'll play that game. And people, I don't think, really understand that. So,
okay, this is stupid for a different reason. Most proponents of a 4-day work week advocate for less days, but the same amount of hours. Your analogy of having more time on the field doesn't make sense because you're not spending more time on the field. But even if you look at trials that actually did cut working hours for their employees, they overwhelmingly reported an increase to worker productivity. Read a book, you fucking loser. Let's check in on what Big Pat's thinking.
They say the day Microsoft went public, the number is 5,000 millionaires. Can you look up Microsoft public 5,000 millionaire stocks? Can you type that out? Some story. It's either Microsoft or Apple.
No, it was Microsoft. He's going to find it. And it was 32-year-old receptionist,
regular guys,
a 7-year engineer that had been working 60 hours a week and busted his butt and was given some of those stock options.
For those that are defending the 4-day work week and remote and all of that shit, let me tell you what you're defending. Okay, I'm sorry. It was 12,000 employees. Okay, okay. It rose to dominate the personal computer operating system market with MS-DOS in the mid-'80s, followed by Windows. The company's 1986 initial public offering and subsequent rise in its shares created 3 billionaires and an estimated 12,000 millionaires from regular employees.
Jeez. Ha! It was 12,000 employees that became millionaires, not 5,000. Pat on the back, boys, because he's even more correct. Except, he sort of isn't though, is he? His point is that you can be a regular guy and still make millions, like these employees. All they had to do was be born in an area where Microsoft had an office, at a time where Microsoft was still a relatively small private company, and have the relevant qualifications that would allow them to work on the cutting edge of software engineering at the time, and be earning enough money to be able to buy stocks in the company that they're working for at a volume that would make them millionaires once the stocks were a publicly tradable commodity. Also, the Wikipedia article that they are reading from a Google search page says that, subsequent to 1986, 12,000 people have become millionaires because of stock value rises. That's the total number since 1986, and shouldn't be conflated with 12,000 people instantly became millionaires when Microsoft went public. That's a stupid thing to say from a stupid man that could have only become successful from being a complete bullshit merchant. We haven't even got to his video yet, so let's skip over to the video committed to the 4-day work week. I won't spend too much time on this one, but only because Joshua Fluke has made a couple of really great videos on the topic. Definitely go and check him out, but let's do a quick run through here. In this video, Patrick starts by explaining that his definition of success is what companies were founded in each country that has successfully integrated a 4-day work week into their system. He wants to know exactly how innovative these countries are, because if they aren't generating billion-dollar companies at the same scale as America, then they're obviously worse countries. He looks at Australia, tells us that they invented Wi-Fi and Google Maps, then says absolutely nothing else. No other observations, just literally moves on without saying anything else. No fucking idea.
Australia, 2 big names technology-wise that have came out of there. One is Wi-Fi, 1992, and the other one is Google Maps, which was invented by Danish brothers in Australia, later bought by Google. All right, that's their innovation. Austria.
Next up, Austria. Beautiful country, great people, here we go.
According to an OECD report, Austria has the 6th shortest average work week. And although Austria hasn't instituted a 4-day work week, many Austrian workers are interested in the idea. Matter of fact, they surveyed people to ask who was interested in it. 1 out of every 2 workers said they would welcome a 4-day work week. So now let's define success. Austria, you ready? Most innovative company they have started in the last 30-something years. It's called Pez Candy. You ever seen Pez Candy? You probably had it before. You know what their top line revenue was last year? $29 million. Yes, $29 million. That's that's innovation. If that's success to you, well, maybe the 4-day work week is a great idea.
Okay, Patrick's slyly implying that Pez isn't a super successful company in the grand scheme of things, grossing $29 million in 2023. If, unlike Patrick, you look up most successful Austrian brands, you'll notice some weird drink called Red Bull originated there. It's the most popular energy drink brand in the United States, and it grossed over 11 billion euros in 2024. Not too shabby, and shits all over Patrick's personal achievements of selling shitty caps that are made in China to his MLM victims. The whole video runs on like this. Pat pulls a bunch of countries, tells you the average hours worked, then implies that they are less successful than America. And that's bad because revenue is his litmus test for how good something is. Not once does Pat look at, say, how happy people are in those countries. If he did, he would notice that Australian companies had overwhelmingly reported that their staff are happier, healthier, and more efficient after adopting a 4-day work week. Reports of workers becoming more productive are a regular occurrence. He looks at Denmark. Hey Pat, here's an interesting statistic for you. Denmark has the second shortest work week in the world and comes second on the World Happiness Index. That means that workers in Denmark are much happier than, say, the US, who ranks 23rd. Ouch. Must be all that innovation causing American suicide rates to increase every single year for the last 20 years. I love how he's appointing himself the arbiter of what can be considered innovation when the only thing he's innovated in his lifetime is how to scam money out of poor Hispanic people.
000000110000011
You guys remember that interview Kathy Newman did with Norman Deleterson? The one where he's all like, I don't think men should be forced to wear lobsters. And she's all like, so you think we should ban men wearing lobsters? Well, the reason why Kathy was being a dickhead in that interview is because she failed to understand the nuances of Feterson's argument. It made her come across as petty, stupid, insincere, and like she was just trying to paint him as a bad guy rather than actually trying to understand his arguments. Not only would I assert that Pat does the same thing, I would go a step further and say that this is the only way he is capable of thinking. At least Kathy was just having a bit of a bad day, but Patrick simply cannot conceive of somebody not being on one side or another.
So why do you think they didn't like or respect Trump? Let's see what you're going to say with that. Why do you think? Tell me.
The guy's a joke.
He is?
Yeah.
Okay, tell us why. And Biden's not a joke.
Well, we can talk about Biden.
Oh, because Biden's like the GOAT and, and Trump's the joke.
No.
Okay, so tell us why he's a joke.
So you think Trump is a joke? Oh, so you think Biden's not a joke? Okay, sure. Biden's amazing. Sure, pal. What a dishonest piece of shit argument.
Kamala, who is apparently black, she's up 41. And
what do you mean by apparently?
I mean, that's what they're telling us. We're supposed to believe she's black.
No,
and,
it's much better that, no. See, I would never say a thing like that. But you said, don't explain what you mean. No, I don't want to put you in trouble.
Yeah, apparently. Well, I
was going to throw it onto your shoulders, apparently. Well, no, you could explain it because I understand.
I'm very comfortable explaining it because overnight, she's doing a show. She's supposed to be Indian. And then all of a sudden now it's black, but it's not landing with the average American.
Pat says that Kamala says she's Indian, then says she's black. She can't make up her mind. Hey, Pat, watch this.
Watch this.
Maybe she's fucking both. Sort of like how you're a Syrian and Armenian, right? You know how you like to mention that. Okay, let's jump over to a video he had the temerity to post just about a month or so ago called Hiding in Plain Sight. Musk exposes Social Security scandal involving millions of immigrants. Very scary stuff. In it, he talks about Elon Musk's presentation in which he exposes that over 2 million immigrants were given Social Security numbers in 2024. Isn't that awful? Genuine question, by the way. I'm actually not sure if this is really a bad thing. Pat is, though. He reckons it's fucking awful. So let's put on our critical thinking hats and do our due diligence before we agree with him. Let's first look at the title of this graph. So this is Social Security numbers issued to non-citizens. Got it. Let's all hope that Patrick and his team don't conflate non-citizens with illegal immigrants, because that would be a fucking stupid thing to do that a professional pundit definitely would not do. Okay, so Pat's colleague, who is ostensibly a paid research assistant if nothing else, get this, he searches, in what year was the most amount of social security numbers given to illegal immigrants? Whoopsie, I guess nobody on his payroll knows what a non-citizen is. Patrick, not deterred by the phraseology of the question, or the fact that none of this was researched before the show, or the fact that he himself doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about, troops on. Did you catch it? Did you see how Patrick is actively, willfully misinforming you to make you vote in line with him? Okay, just jump back to the ChatGPT answer. The highest amount of non-citizens getting social security numbers was in 2024 with over 2 million. However, it is important to note that non-citizens who are authorized to work in the US can legally obtain social security numbers. Therefore, the issuance of social security numbers to non-citizens does not necessarily indicate that they were issued to individuals residing in the country illegally. Pat didn't read the answer out loud because he's not trying to inform you. He's trying to convince you that Biden was given welfare and free foot jobs to every illegal immigrant. It's not about what is correct. It's about him trying to get you on his side by scaring you. He follows it up with this.
And so now, very basic. Why did this happen? What percentage of them do you think are going to be voting Republican? What percentage of them do you think are going to be voting on the left? Who did this? What was the motive? Tom, lots of questions. Your thoughts on this?
Which way are they gonna vote? Now they have the nice shiny social security card. Again, I'm not an American, so I suppose I should ask the stupid question. Can you even vote with just a social security number? Let's do some research together and find out. ChatGPT says no. Well, let's just do our due diligence and check Pat's state of Florida, since it does vary a little by the states if I remember correctly. Yep, looks like you can use your social security number to register to vote, but you can't actually vote in the state of Florida without an accepted form of ID as listed here. Now, I'd say that it's embarrassing that I know more about this than Patrick, but remember, Patrick knows this stuff. He knows that this isn't the case. He is lying to you to convince you that you need to vote a certain way. He's a grifter. And a cunt. Finally, Pat hands over to this suit wanker to bring it home. He makes the case that giving social security numbers to illegal immigrants lets them use it to lie to employers about their legal status and right to work. Let's listen to his argument.
I think the administration in power at the time was a Biden administration, and the support of Schumer and Pelosi were very, very liberal on this issue. They were issuing Social Security numbers to non-citizens. They were helping people who got here to stay here and work here legally. They're giving Social Security numbers out to people, I believe, knowing full well that they're helping them hide in plain sight as illegals, because you go up to get a job and they say, do you have a Social Security card? Yes, I do. I'll show you my Social Security card, my number right here. And you fill out a, what's it called? An I-9 with, I think that's the form that an employee has to fill out to say that they're a citizen, an I-9. And so this is the previous administration giving Social Security numbers out so people can hide in plain sight who are actually not citizens.
Okay, so they can just write their Social Security number on an I-9, which I presume is some kind of employment document, and they just don't need to do anything else. That seems weird. Let's look this up and we'll see what we can find out. Right, here is an I-9 form. Whenever you hire anybody, even if you only have one staff member, you need to fill out this form. Great. You'll notice that there's a box here for your Social Security number. Easy money for illegals. Except, hang on, they also require you to attest to your citizenship by entering details on how you came to work in the US. That seems like a difficult hurdle, but I suppose they could lie about that too. But wait one gosh darn minute, because Section 2 of the I-9 requires the employer to physically examine their new employee's identification and enter document numbers and expiry dates. The employer also has to sign, under penalty of perjury, that the documents appear to be genuine and that they believe the employee is authorized to work in the US. So not only is this guy telling you a lie, but he might have actually just implicated his boss's business for not completing the I-9 employment forms either correctly or at all. And the fucking cherry on top here is that filling out your social security number on an I-9 form is optional anyway. I mean, Jesus Christ, what a sorry gaggle of brain-dead cunts. I'm fully convinced that 200 years ago they wouldn't have let these people milk a cow, and yet here we are, a multi-million subscriber channel full of people that couldn't even blow their own nose without an instructional fucking video. Okay, let's wrap this up because, you know, we've all got shit to do. So Patrick sold his MLM scam to a company called, I shit you not, Integrity in 2022. Pat reportedly made around $300 million from the deal, although there is some speculation around the details. And so, what are my key takeaways from this video? Well, Patrick is just another con man with a grift. Whether he's trying to sell you on working 7 days a week, or his pyramid scheme, or his political views, the real point to make here is that he is doing none of this for you. He is only ever in it for his own gain, and if he can possibly frame it that he's doing something altruistically, then all the better to scam you with. He isn't cheering Trump's tariffs because he thinks it's genuinely going to make prices cheaper for the majority of US citizens. He is cheering for it because it's going to pay for his corporate tax cuts. He isn't recruiting as many people as possible into his MLM to turn you all into millionaires. He's doing it because he stands to profit from every single person that signs up and pays a training fee. This video is by no means an extensive covering of Patrick and his idiocy, and I've linked in the description to channels like Always Marco, Joshua Fluke, and King of Nothing that have also made some really strong videos about Pat's history and his businesses. He is just another con man, just another grifter in a long line of con men and grifters trying to get richer by making you poorer. Thank you for watching. If you liked this video, please do like it and subscribe to the channel. It's totally free and helps get this out there for more people to see. A huge thank you to the gorgeous and very patient channel members on Patreon and YouTube. If you'd like to join them and get your name in the credits for each video, the links are in the description, or you can press join right below this video. These are a real bastard to edit and research, and your support really does mean the world. Love you. Bye bye.